Hey guys, Darren Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting podcast. Tonight we're going back to the great state of Texas. We're talking to Mr. Blake Schroeder. He had an awesome year in 2021. He's a pretty good hammer down in Texas. He's had a very, very successful career as an angler. He's still young in his career, but we're talking to another college angler tonight. He fished for SFA for a couple of years, and then he moved on to being a boater in the BFLs and the Toyota Series. Last year, 2021, he took 2 top 5 finishes in the BFL Cowboy division. And then he also qualified for the 2021 Toyota Series Championship on Lake Pickwick. So the guy's a stud. Again, young in his career. We're very, very excited to talk to him. But real quick, I just want to say thank you to all of our subscribers, all of our followers, and everybody watching these podcasts. We're having a lot of fun with it. And we've got a lot more content to come throughout the year. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. That way you get notified when we're dropping all of our podcasts. And, you know, all the content that we're putting out there as well. You can also find all of our content on Facebook and Instagram. So, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this podcast. Very, very excited to have another Texas angler, Mr. Blake Schroeder. How you doing this evening, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. Out yourself?
Good. I appreciate you taking the time to come on board with us. You know, we just talked about that you live less than 2 hours away from Toledo Bend. You're off to a good start this season in the Cowboy division for the BFLs. So talk to us about the upcoming event in a couple of weeks on Toledo Bend, and what do you expect from it?
I expect it to be pretty tough. You know, the weather we've had down here is pretty characteristic. You know, it seems like the last 2 or 3 years our winters have been kind of late. You know, late January, early February, and sometimes extending into March. The water temps have really just now hit the low 50s and occasionally the high 40s here lately. So it's kind of throwing the fish in a funk.
Okay. So, you know, we know that the weather's been kind of bad. You're expecting a tough tournament. That being said, without giving away too much information, how do you anticipate going into this tournament? Are you fishing for bites? Are you fishing for the quality? Are you going out deep, shallow? Are you putting 20 rods on the deck and just running and gunning? Or what's kind of how the way you attack a situation like that?
Well, to be frank with you, I'm fishing the Brandon Belt deal on Sam Rayburn Thursday and Friday, and I anticipate making the top 20 on Saturday. So I'm not even signed up for the BFL, so I don't really have much to hold back on you. But if I was fishing, and from what I've seen out there, there's a lot of shad in that 16 to 22 foot. And if that was me, if I was fishing, that's where I would be. I'd be targeting those fish, pulling up, feeding on those shad, especially since the water temperatures have dropped. They're going to be ganged up and kind of gorging before they make their move, and especially since we have a warming trend right now. So put a lot of fish, feeding and on the move.
Okay. Do you suspect there'll be any pre-spawn fish caught, or the weather's just not holding out for that to happen?
We've kind of had a mild winter up to this point. So, some of those fish have already reached, in my opinion, have reached their pre-spawn kind of areas. And I think some of them are going to hold tight. So I do think there is some pre-spawn fish being caught. Toledo Bend, of the 2 lakes, Rayburn and Toledo Bend's typically the first one from the start spawning on. I've caught them on beds in the middle of February and on Toledo Bend. So certainly be some pre-spawn fish caught. But it certainly won't be on the beds or anything like that.
Right.
I expect to see water temps probably by Saturday, probably 53, 54 degrees in the morning, and slowly warm. I don't expect them to get much warmer throughout the day with it being cold. They might even be cooler than that. But it's going to be definitely a pre-spawn into wintertime event.
Okay, I got you. So, that being said, for the anglers that are preparing for this event, would you just kind of go with what anglers like to do down in Texas? Like, I know some anglers like to throw a jig and slow down, target brush piles. Some anglers like to pick up the reaction baits, such as the big deep diving crankbaits, the jerk baits, the spoons. Would you do a little bit of all of it to try to target fish, or do you think an angler needs to stick to, just one technique and try to make it work?
So, someone kind of like myself, I would key on, channel swings and ledges that drop anywhere from, that 14 to 16 foot into, that 20, 30 foot. And I'd be throwing a Carolina rig, usually like a 3.5, 4.5 foot leader. I like to throw a little longer one than most people. Anything like a fluke, a brush hog, lizard, something like that. And then, obviously a jig, when the water gets cool, slow drag and a jig with a trailer that doesn't give off too much action, just something that just prevents a good profile down there. that's what I would be doing. And then for the people that, prefer, the shad chasers and stuff like that, um, definitely using your active target and using a jig and spoon, a small swim bait, something of that sort. And, trying to target fish like that get suspended off of those long points and channel swings and stuff like that. I think there can be a good bag of fish caught like that on this event.
Okay. Looking back in the day when we talk about the Denny Browers of the world, even the Keith Combs, he's mentioned it, and the early anglers down in Texas. Rick Clun's originally from Texas. He's talked about it. You mentioned the jig, which is one of my favorite techniques. It's just a big fish catcher. I think truly a largemouth in the wintertime, they need to eat in order to warm up, and I think that they're more inclined to eat a big jig, which is resembling that big crawfish than chasing a shad, just because they have crawfish is just an easier meal to them, and I think provides more protein. But, looking back at some of those nostalgic anglers like that started really making a jig famous, they started using the pork rind trailers. Is that still a thing that Texas anglers are doing, is using pork rinds, or has everybody adapted to the modern soft plastics?
A lot of people have adapted to the modern soft plastics. I think there's still some pork rinds that are being thrown, but, I think the chunk, like the big bite baits chunk, that's taken a place of that. Pretty good. And then, just a bunch of other crawl kind of trailers and stuff like that. And, one thing that can't be forgotten is, a deep diving crankbait. A jig catches big ones, but there ain't a bigger fish catcher than a big crankbait. A C15 or a C20 this time of year is hard to beat.
Right. Correct. So, fishing Lake Toledo Bend, you want to throw that big deep diving crankbait, and it's always been a lake that I would want to go to. I've never had the opportunity to get on a big crankbait bite, but you see the Elite Series when they go to Toledo Bend. You see the FLW Series went there a few years ago, and guys were catching on deep diving crankbaits. So that being said, it's been known that you want to throw a smaller diameter fluorocarbon to get your crankbait down a little deeper. Is that something that you want to do in Texas because they have bigger fish in all the brush piles, or like how do you go about that strategy?
Toledo Bend is an animal. There's so much natural structure, from when they flooded the lake. If I'm throwing a big crankbait like a C20 or C25, I like to throw it on 17 or 20 pound test just because there's so much structure. And then when you get to like the C15, I like to throw it on 15-pound test, just because strictly the structure, and just because you're throwing a C15 doesn't mean you have to throw it in 15 to 18 foot, or same with the other ones. You want to be making contact with the bottom at all times.
Okay. So a couple last questions talking about Toledo Bend for the upcoming BFL tournament with the Cowboy division. What's the deal with the grass? We're hearing a lot of reports. Obviously in Florida, we never have to worry about that unless they're spraying it and killing it. But I've heard a lot of reports that in Toledo Bend, the grass is dead. The grass is in some areas. What's been kind of your experience there? And do you think it'll come back, or is there something that's going on within the lake that's causing it to die off, or what's happening?
They have sprayed. It's been a couple of years. They sprayed in the high water. The water got high a couple of years ago, and a combination of they pull a lot of current. Sabine River Authority pulls a lot of current out of that lake when it does get high, so it rips some of the grass out. So a combination of that and then spraying the hay grass was really good on Toledo Bend a couple of years ago, and they sprayed that, so that didn't help. But now the water's dropped a little bit, and usually when the water drops for extended period of time, it gives, when the water comes back up, usually you have some new growth, and hopefully the hydrilla will come back. But it's very sparse right now on Toledo Bend, and I don't think there's an angler in Texas or Louisiana that doesn't wish that it was back, because that's what Toledo Bend was made famous for, is grass fishing. I remember days back when I was in college where you could drop on grass or flip grass in 18 to 20 foot. I mean, it was crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like it since. There can be some fish caught up shallow. Don't get me wrong. There's always some fish up shallow on Toledo Bend, on some isolated cover, and somebody could pick a few off on something like that. Throwing, a swim jig or chatterbait or a square bill, something like that. It's hit or miss. You'd probably catch them on a trap in the dirt somewhere. Fish will be caught. We have a warming trend this week. They're going to catch them. I think they will.
Yeah, fantastic. So, well, last question, wrapping up our podcast. And again, appreciate you coming on. What do you think it's going to take for a co-angler to be successful in this? We have a lot of different listeners, boaters and co-anglers. That's been a question that we're getting is, let's show the co-angler some love. So how can a co-angler approach this tournament? And let's say he was only bringing 3 rods. What would you recommend?
3 rods, Carolina
Mhm.
rig, a drop shot. Man, you got me thinking on the third one, but maybe a crankbait. It just depends. If we're fishing shallow in Texas, it's hard to beat a Senko,
Mhm.
for a co-angler, or a wacky rig or a shaky head on Toledo Bend, but definitely a drop shot and a Carolina rig. That's hard to beat, anywhere from, if you're fishing, deeper than 10 foot, a 1 ounce Carolina rig. If you're shallower than 10 foot, a half-ounce Carolina rig. That's a go-to thing to get bit in Texas. So,
And just standard creature baits to trailer that
yeah.
Carolina rig.
Yeah, fluke, brush hog, lizard, anything like that.
Okay, I got you. So, well, Blake, it's been an honor to have you on our podcast, and I appreciate all the insight. You've given a lot of information for Toledo Bend. But just to wrap things up, we want to give you the floor. If there's any sponsors you'd like to mention, I know you're still an avid tournament angler, and you're doing really, really well in your career. So, if there's anybody you'd like to thank or mention, now's the time to do that.
Yeah, man. Obviously, Sixth Sense. They're a big supporter of mine. Falcon rods, big bite baits. There's endless amounts of people that help me out. Owner hooks. I could go on and on, man. And I just appreciate everybody's support. And I couldn't do without them. Obviously, Coast Sunglasses. Big sight fishing setup for Texas this year with the water level on Toledo Bend and Rayburn, and those are going to be essential. So we're looking forward to that, and Skeeter boats. This is my first year with Skeeter, and I've been floored with the boat. I love it, and I look forward to running it all year. Had some early success this year in the BFL and the team tournaments, and look forward to getting the Toyota Series kicked off here in about a week and a half, and look forward to a fun season and enjoying it.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. So, well, Blake, from all of us at Revital Outdoors, thank you again, and we wish you the best of luck this year in 2022. Hopefully, we're talking to you again because that usually means you've been successful. So, hopefully, we can circle around and talk to you again. But once again, just good luck this year. Thank you for all your insight, and yeah, man, we really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. All right, guys, a lot of great information there on Toledo Bend for the upcoming BFL tournament in the Cowboy division in a couple of weeks. So we want to wish all the anglers good luck out there, and we appreciate you tuning into this podcast. Make sure if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, you go ahead and check out our website, www.revitaloutdoors.com. Again, we're a premium CBD company for the outdoor enthusiasts. So if you're an outdoor enthusiast, whether you love hunting or fishing and you have back discomfort or you have trouble sleeping at night or inflammation in your knees or throughout your body, or just the discomforts that happen when you're going out in the field chasing the trophies that we are, or out on the water dealing with all those rough waves, make sure you check out CBD from Revital Outdoors. All of our products are premium CBD. They're THC free. You won't fail a drug test, and made right here in America. And we also have a fantastic Pro Staff program. So click on that Pro Staff tab, fill out the application. We'd be happy to review it. We're constantly accepting new talent to represent Revital Outdoors. And we're growing that daily. So please check us out. From all of us at Revital Outdoors, I'm Theron Asbury. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. Be safe out there. God bless. And we will talk to you soon.